In 2019, a washed-up duo of bench racers were sent to RC prison for the crime of on-track race incidents. These men fled Facebook to the platform of Podbean to safely spew their garbage without any listeners. Wanted by stock racers, they survive with weekly episodes. If you have a problem and don't want a solution and are okay with not using iTunes, then you can listen to the Track Walk RC Podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to the Track Walk RC Podcast, episode number 52. Coming at you this week, I am Travis Kendall, along with Colin Branch, and hope you guys have, well, made the most out of this sort of smoke storm we're in. Not been a whole lot of fun. Yeah. I guess really just I want to open up on that note, kind of thoughts with everybody, especially down in like the Portland area. We've heard of a couple racers in particular that have unfortunately lost kind of everything in light of the fires. So thoughts are with those guys, and I see they're doing like some benefit races down at like PDX and stuff like that to help those guys out. So that's really awesome to see, but sad it has to happen at all. But yeah, no. So again, your Washington friends are with you guys, and try and keep your heads up the best you possibly can. I can't imagine what that scenario is like, but
yeah, there's actually some GoFundMes going for, I know at least Leighton there was a GoFundMe made for him. And if you can, please go and support our RC family.
Yeah, I'll try and track it down and put it in the description for the episode. So it should be there if you guys just scroll down on the episode listing, and it should be there if you want to try and contribute to them. Because, yeah, that's a really bad situation. I mean, it's one of those things that you never really think could happen. Like I know it's of all the things you think that might happen in life, a fire, and this so magnitude, surreal.
Man, they lost everything.
Yeah,
vehicles. You name it, their whole property, their house was leveled.
That's sad. That's really sad.
Looking at the pictures it was heartbreaking.
That's a real bummer.
Yeah.
So if you can, try and pitch in a little bit, help out your fellow racers. They'd be doing the same for us for sure. So yeah, the smoke hopefully lifting. Hopefully pretty soon up here in Washington. It's been kind of bad for us, kind of got like the sort of superstorm of smoke from California and Oregon, and that sort of came our way. So I think we're at the tail end of it now. And so hopefully we see a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel here. But unfortunately with that, I think came a little bit of news. This, I believe, is this upcoming weekend. I don't have the graphic in front of me, so I can't quite remember. But I think it was this upcoming weekend that they were supposed to have their NCT in Albany. Supposed to be round 3. And they didn't explicitly say why it was suddenly changed from Albany to Yakima, but given the current situation, I think it's probably a pretty safe assumption that they had to move over. So
yeah, taking up those hotel rooms and that kind of stuff for an RC race, taking it away from people that really need the hotel room.
There's just not a lot about that situation that would make sense to have the race there. So good for them that they were able to sort of put something together last minute. Looks like we'll be racing at Yakima after all. I know that was supposed to be the plan for round 2, but we kind of had to put a pin in that.
Well, there's also something there. I think they're going to have to make a call I don't know if it was tonight or tomorrow they were going to make a call determining whether they were going to have to put it off by a week because of the smoke.
Oh, in Yakima.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably a problem down there still, so that makes sense. And I would imagine they would have it a little bit worse than where we are, because it's realistically not that far away from where things are kind of rough in Oregon.
I think their numbers are higher than what it is down in Albany as far as the air quality.
Right.
And I don't know what ours has been the last couple days, but I think I saw today that they're right around 250 to 300 mark.
That's about where
today.
we were today, I think, too.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
interesting. Okay. So I guess we're waiting for word on that. Maybe hopefully we'll hear something by the time the episode comes out, and there will be a ruling here. But
yeah, they're going to make a call tonight or tomorrow.
Okay, cool. So, yeah, we'll just have to kind of see then. But that, again, one more loop in all of this that has been the sort of 2020 year, and good for the NCTs for adapting as much as they possibly can. So good for them. I hope it works out and they can have the race. I would hate to see it get canceled again, but as it sounds right now, that might not be quite on the table. So fingers crossed. We'll see.
Yeah, 2020, man. What a year.
Yeah. I know. It's like, yeah, who had fires, right? Whose prediction was that?
Yeah. It's man, it's one thing after another. It's crazy.
Oh, really? It absolutely has been. But that means that at least an NCT season is happening. So we do have a little bit to talk about. We got a lot of questions tonight. I posted up that it was going to be an NCT themed sort of episode. The original plan was that we were going to have Brian Phillips on to sort of recap the previous race over in Post Falls and then preview what was supposed to be Albany. And my schedule got kind of chaotic this particular week, and I'm recording 2 podcasts tonight instead of just the one. So I was not comfortable with the time frame, so I ended up not reaching out to Brian to see if he wanted to do this one, but we'll do it again at some point. But I wasn't confident that we were going to be able to pull that off. So yeah, we're going to talk some NCTs. Yeah, it happens when it's your only free night, I guess. So we're going to talk some NCTs tonight. Well, if we have the opportunity, we will try and preview the next race a little bit in Yakima. Taking what we know so far of the season. We're 2 races in, and maybe we can make some predictions. That'd be kind of fun. So let's just dive right in, because some of these might be some fairly lengthy topics and some stuff that I don't think we've talked about quite yet in regards to NCTs. So the first question that I had was from an anonymous questionee. He didn't want to cause a stir, so he messaged me personally, and so I figured, for his sake, he would probably want to not have his name said. So he said, I hear a lot of people wanting to limit entries. Since I have been doing NCTs, it's been less for racers. Since I've been doing NCTs, it's been less for racers. Biggest complaint I hear is less run time for more money. I don't want to stir pot, but this is just the stuff I hear from some racers. So that's kind of an interesting point. So there's a couple ways you could look at this. And I think I'm on this side a little bit of the NCTs maybe not limiting entries, because I think that some of the problems that might be feeding into why this is a topic is sort of an NCT inherent problem. Stuff that I don't think is necessarily an issue, but I could see why they would think this. What's your take on this?
I was a big, I was pushing to have entries limited at NCTs, but in the whole scheme of things, I just want to see more people racing. So to limit entries is going to cut back on number of people that can enjoy the NCTs, and it's also going to limit the amount of money that the clubs, because the clubs get money from an NCT, not just the NCT group themselves, the actual club. And some of these clubs rely on this money. Actually, most of the clubs rely on this money to be able to make improvements for the track and to sustain themselves for the rest of the
And I
year.
think
So
that's mostly why this wouldn't quite work, because though it's just the problem is the business model, right? Like if tracks are relying on the NCT money, like a lot of them do, because if I remember correctly, they do take most of the proceeds from each round. So, what the NCT takes is actually fairly little. So if you put something up that realistically doesn't take any money out of the NCT's pocket, but it takes money out of the club's pocket, it's going to be a very tough sell. And you're just sort of constricting what, again, because some of these places don't have strong club racing that can like propel them forward. Burlington kind of used to be this way, whereas maybe it would be more like Yakima now or Walla Walla, where it's not, those guys aren't turning 100 entry club races every 2 weeks like Skatchet is, right? So it's a lot harder for them, even though they take probably a fairly similar amount of money away, in terms of dollar amount that, Burlington would maybe. And I don't know that for sure, but reason would point that way. But now you are capping that essentially, and they have to make that money last so much longer. It has to go so much farther than it would have to in Skagit. So, yeah, you're probably not getting a vote on the table at that one in their Ellensburg meetings. But I get the runtime thing. I really do. And I think why we run into this is because it's a mixed program. You've got 8 scale and you have 10 scale. And if you separated them, that would solve that issue. Everyone would be able to get more runtime, less time waiting for things like that. They could probably go enjoy themselves throughout the weekend. But is that really what we want for the NCTs? There's every race everywhere, right, is either an 8 scale or 10 scale. Very few are mixed. We're like one of the only places that do this. And we're the only series that does it. So that's been kind of a charm of the NCTs for as long as I've been around. And I think I like it better that even they mixed it within the weekend. When I first started in the earlier part of the decade, it was 10 scale in the mornings, 8 scale in the afternoons. And I don't know. The flow was weird. I'd be doing nothing for like hours, then all of a sudden I'd be super busy, and 8 scale was struggling a little bit at the time. So, you were up like every other run, and you got to get batteries charged and find corner marshals, but there's only like 40 people there. So there was just a lot of things that kind of weren't working. So I think my solution to this is that there is no solution, really. I don't see what the NCT can do format-wise to really alleviate this, because, like I said, I'm sort of on the side of like valuable runtime versus more runtime, but I also understand not everyone thinks that way, and that's fine.
I'm all for more runtime. I went, when I went to the RCGP and had so much runtime that I was tired of running, that
which is awesome. That's really cool. But that works if you go to a race that has one class. If you go to an event that has 10, you run out of time.
Yeah. It's there's no real good solution to this. I'm always pushing for more runtime and less classes and all this kind of stuff, and I kind of still am, but we don't have the numbers in the Northwest to support a strictly 8 scale buggy race. Or, we might be able to support
I think we could do a single race, but not an NCT.
Right. NCTs is its own thing, and NCT is popular, extremely popular, because of the way the format is actually ran. 90% of people don't mind being there for 3 days.
Right.
And getting the amount of track time they have. So, I can totally relate with wanting to split it and wanting more track time and this sort of thing. But are you willing to pay more for your entry to do so?
Yeah, and I know it's kind of relative to cost too, and that's sort of a motivator here, is that you don't get as much runtime as you feel like you might be, thinking you get for what you pay. And I get that.
And the NCT has its own feel, its own atmosphere because of the way it's run and the dual, the dual purpose where they've got 10 scale and 8 scale combined. The track's a compromise for both 10 scale and 8 scale, and everybody's intermingling, and that is part of the charm of the NCTs. I don't think the NCTs should change anything. Do we need specific races for 10 scale and for 8 scale? Probably. But the NCTs have become successful and so popular. Nobody else is doing this in the country the way the NCT is doing it. And I can tell you that the NCTs are extremely popular.
I would love to see the Fallout or Hangover, go 8 scale only. I would love to see someone come up with a badass 10 scale only outdoor race. Yes. I think we need to bring that back. I would love to see somebody do that. I think those things are cool. There should be more of that. But I look at it this way. It's that you can either have the NCT the way it is now, and we've said it so many times, and we've talked to guests who aren't from here that have spoken so highly of the atmosphere of the NCT. And I think you can solve the runtime issue by splitting the sectors away and making everything longer because you'd have more time, but I think you lose the feel. One of the things that I really like about the NCTs is that in some cases, you have people who have been doing 10 scale forever. You have some people who have been doing 8 scale forever, and sometimes people will not switch over or won't even try it. So, and a lot of them you're friends with, right? If you're an 8 scale guy, there's a good chance you know a guy that's basically 10 scale only, and you're friends with him. And you never probably would have been if you hadn't been at this event together. So, so you kind of cross paths with people that you otherwise maybe never would have met. And so I think that's a cool part of this too. I mean, it just comes back to the atmosphere portion of it. I think you could solve it, but I think that's what you sacrifice. So to me, it's worth having the runtime issue almost. But again, my priority in those circumstances, like if I can't change it, right? Like I go to an event like this and I'm like, okay, I have to make the most of what I have. That's an exciting prospect for me, but I understand why not everybody maybe has that same mentality and looks at it the same way I do. Some people just want to go there and drive as much as they possibly can and max out their punches and stuff like that. So for those people, the runtime thing is an issue for them. And that's fair. Yeah. That's 100% fair. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just a perspective difference is all. But I see where you're coming from, though. I do want to...
I absolutely agree. I think there should be events that are strictly 10 scale and strictly 8 scale, but the NCTs should stay NCTs the way they are.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's the bottom line.
That's where I'm at. We can probably move on. Elliot Chappelle, what do you think of Novice at these types of races? Maybe not NCT in specific. Do they need to be there as the future of RC, or should it just be a race event for higher level racers? Or maybe do away with Novice at high level races and have 15 under e-buggy classes? To be clear, I'm not saying I want to do away with Novice.
I think the answer is just yes.
So
novice is important at any race, I think. NCTs, we've argued that novice racers really shouldn't be at an NCT, but
this is kind of my thought as well. Like, I look at it from this stance. I love seeing novice. I would never be against a novice class anywhere, but I don't think the NCT in particular should feel obligated to have one. I mean, there's kind of a reason why everybody's there. There are some people who are in there for series points. They're there for the series. There's a very small percentage of people who just go to their local one. And so from that perspective, I don't think that the organizers should stress themselves out over trying to fit a novice class into the time block. If they have enough people and they can put a decent sized main together, sure, why not? But I also do feel like that is an area where you can put more responsibility on the local club to have a novice program throughout the year to accommodate those guys. It's not like that's the only time they're ever going to come to an RC race is the local NCT, right? I guess it's possible.
I don't know about that because we just literally 3 minutes ago talked about the atmosphere at an NCT and how awesome it is. And that is something that could get somebody hooked. Somebody that's running novice could get hooked by the atmosphere and the scope of an NCT. You know what I mean? Like at a club race, you might not get that same kind of atmosphere and feeling. So I don't think novice should ever be excluded.
Maybe.
If you go to the nationals or the worlds, sorry, sure, that's different. But we're still grassroots, really, at the end of the day. So I think having novice at the NCTs is a good idea. I mean, it's only going to be probably one heat. So the amount of time it's going to take, and it's typically electric. Mm-hmm. So it's like 5-minute heats, right, per round. So I really don't think that it's taking much away from the rest of the program.
Yeah, if your program is make or break on having a novice class in your time block, you have issues somewhere else. For sure.
And I think the whole atmosphere and everything like that could help get more people hooked on our hobby and what we're doing. Because, the NCTs, I've never had an atmosphere or that kind of feeling at any other race.
Yes, but there is another element to this, I think. And like, don't get me wrong, I'm not advocating against having a novice at NCTs. I like I said, if they can have one, have one. But I don't know if it should be mandatory. My thought on this is like my first couple years as like a personal experience doing NCTs, they were kind of intimidating races when I was starting out. And granted, there has been a culture shift since then, so it's not a direct comparison. But when you're first starting out and you just show up and you don't know anybody, you don't really get the perks of the good atmosphere there that you would if someone that has been kind of privy to the scene for a while. You and I can go to one of these races and we can talk about how awesome it is. But if it's someone else's first race there with a slash and they don't know anybody, they're probably not going to have the same things to say that we did.
Right, but the chances of somebody walking up to that person with a slash at an NCT and helping them out is much greater than at a club race, only for the sheer factor that there's that many more people there.
Yeah. To help. Yes, your sample size is greater, but I also think their ability to get noticed is a lot higher at a club race because there's going to be less people. So the club,
that side of
the club stand-ins are the guys that have, kind of been the local like pseudo leaders, right? They're going to be more apt to help them because they're going to notice. So I think you can make a really solid argument for both. I agree. Like, I think you could just really take a look at this and go, you can kind of be indifferent on it. But I mean, like I said, if you can have it, have it. There's absolutely nothing wrong with having it by any means. I would love to see that. I mean, I would also love to see 15 under e-buggy, but the reality is that'll probably never happen. So
I'd like to see 15 under e-buggy and nitro buggy if they had the numbers to support it.
Yeah, and the reason I want that in particular is because that would be the opportunity for the kids to learn racecraft.
Yep.
That would be the perfect way to get them in. And then that gets them into a class in the NCTs where they can get the NCT sort of series championship experience, but they can do it in an environment that is more suitable for them. So like that is like the total dream class. Like if I could pick anything to like reliably have at the NCTs, dude, I'd do 15 under e-buggy. Absolutely. And if you could support it, nitro also. But
yeah, 15 and under should definitely be a class. And I also think even at 10th scale races, there should be a 15 and under class.
I agree with that. I think that'd be
for,
cool.
yeah, like I don't know if it would be like 17.5 buggy or whatever the class is.
Yeah, I
Doesn't
don't
matter.
know.
But
Outdoors that
there,
gets more tricky, right? Indoors that I think that's easier.
there
But
should be a 15 and under at every race.
yeah, I agree entirely with that.
And it'd be nice if it was a standardized class that anywhere you went, you'd had a 15 and under class for, and you ran the same rules, same car that you ran nationwide in 15 and under.
Oh yeah, it'd be awesome. I would
That would be
love to see
great.
that. I would love to see that. That'd be so killer.
Yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully that kind of gets our perspective in on the novice thing. Chris Trudeau, he asks, what's a proper race length? Should it be time or should it be laps accomplished? For example, is an RCGP a laps completed race versus the traditional timed race?
I don't think it really matters.
Not really. Yeah. The only thing I don't like about laps, which is something that Wildy has said on the show before, is that it really puts it makes, like, if you're going to go nitro, for example, that makes strategy really difficult. There's
Not really. We all know how many laps we can do in 7.5 minutes by the time practice and qualifying's over.
Maybe so. So I guess it kind of depends entirely on the RD calling that out, because it's not like when you're driving, you're going to be counting them down, or hopefully you have a good pit guy who can do it for you. I think, I don't know. Personally, I'm more comfortable with time. I've done the laps thing. Laps thing is cool, but I didn't really see a benefit to the laps. Like, I don't see a benefit for one over the other, but I do like the simplicity of, you still get stop strategy with time, but the work is kind of being done for you. So
yeah, it really wouldn't change much as far as the racers are concerned, but I think for somebody looking in from the outside, it would be more familiar and they could relate to it more.
yeah, I think so.
That might help bring in the odd person here and there. I don't know if it would make much difference, but I don't think it would make much difference for the racers, honestly.
Yeah, that's probably fair. Yeah, I don't know. As far as like 10 scale electric goes, same kind of thing, I guess.
Same deal.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with laps, I don't think, but time just works so well.
I think we're the only motorsport, air quotes, motorsport, that does on time.
No, Supercross is.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
They changed that a couple years ago, and that really didn't change a whole lot.
Yeah. I think it was just recently that they changed it to time, right?
Yeah, it was like 3 or 4 years ago. It wasn't all that long ago.
Yeah.
So they kind of went to the way that outdoors already was. Outdoors has been time for years. It's like
Right.
I think it's 30 minutes plus 2 laps, and I think a Supercross main is 20 plus 2.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean that's basically it. Yeah, everyone else is kind of on laps. So yeah, I don't know. I would be, if there were more, I guess if you could get a little bit more like gimmicky, I don't want to say gimmicky, that's a bad word. If you could say like there's more strategy variation with laps in a nitro race, I think that would be an appealing side to it, is that you would see more variety in what people are doing. But I think what most people are going to do is they're going to do the math to figure out what gets them to 7.5, 8 minutes, which is the reasonable thing to do. But
Yep. Because it's going to vary depending on the length of the track, how many laps you can do in that amount of time. So
yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I guess it's kind of a wash. Don't lean too much one way or the other, but also I guess don't fix what's not broken.
True.
And then our good friend Angus Matheson, he had a long one for us. But this is in regards to the previous NCT up in Post Falls. So he said, review from a newbie. I tagged along with the Bartletts to my first NCT race in Post Falls, Idaho at Rob Monday's track. I have to say I had such a good time. I was a bit nervous at first being so new to the world of RC racing, but as the weekend went on, I became more comfortable in the race atmosphere. I was really impressed with the scope of work that Brian puts into RDing. Rob was an awesome host and great dude all around. Chad Dodd's build was super fun and challenging. And the Bartletts are just all around awesome people that have welcomed me into their family and helped me out so much. All of the people I met were super friendly and willing to help with anything. Racers were coming and going from each other's pit areas, borrowing parts, asking for advice, giving advice, cooking out, and having a genuine good time. Can't wait to take what I learned from that race to the club and to the next NCT event. Side note, I raced Nitro Buggy and Sportsman E-Buggy. I felt like I had a decent amount of time on main day, but between finding someone to pit, marshalling, then racing again, it was pretty hectic at times. I don't know how anyone races more than 2 classes, and props to those that do and perform well. This hobby gives a lot of people an outlet and a healthy dose of competition that can really challenge you mentally. Maybe that would be a cool topic to cover in a docu-series of the NCT that would help the hobby grow in a positive way. So there you go. See, I mean, so I guess that kind of, maybe that, he's not a novice, really, but, like, he's far away from being a novice, but he is new to the world of RC. So I guess actually, really, I look at this, and that makes a pretty strong case for, you know, maybe you should just have novice at every NCT.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
I mean, he has good insight going into this event, but that's definitely a reaffirmation of things that he was thinking it was going to be.
Well, that's almost the other side of that, where, you know, you don't really fully understand what going to a race like an NCT is all about until you actually go.
Yeah.
You know, even somebody that's club raced for forever and ever and has never been to a bigger race like an NCT, it is different. It's not the same as club racing, and, you know, there's something to be said for that experience in itself, because it is different.
I have an idea. This just gave me an idea. Okay, so granted, event hosts are always very busy people. They always are. So you could either do it from if someone has an extra helping hand throughout the weekend, or someone that the NCT can find a volunteer for, or whatever the case may be. But if you're going to have novice at these races, you're going to have it at all 6. What I would love to see is some sort of novice assistance program where it's basically like, give them, okay, here's like almost clinic in a way, okay? Give them, you know, a little bit of slotted time Friday morning, right? And to where they can just get the track to themselves. They can have someone that, you know, is knowledgeable, that is up there with them, that can answer questions, that can help them through things, right? And then someone that can just check up regularly on these people throughout a race weekend. Because NCTs, as awesome as they are, your first time, it is, you know, if your first time and you are like a novice, there's a lot of time, but there's a lot of stuff going on. And so it could probably feel pretty overwhelming. So I think it would be rad to have someone that could like really just check in on these people, that can ensure that their stuff is ready to go coming up to that point. I mean, not like just wrench for them, but just like at least make sure they're not going to miss their race. Right? If they don't know how to fix something or this or that, if they broke out, just someone who can kind of check in. And I think that would go such a long way to creating a positive experience for those people and keeping them around in the hobby. I think that would be massive. And I don't see why it would have to be more than one person. I mean, really.
I agree 125,000%. And this should be something that, you know, all of the, I hate to call them sponsored drivers, but, you know, the higher end drivers, the experienced drivers should almost take upon themselves.
They should. And yeah. I completely agree.
I'm as guilty as anybody else for not leaving my pit area and walking around and finding somebody to help. So I'm not calling anybody out, but this is definitely something that we should all be, aware of and maybe make more of an effort doing, which I really want to start doing that.
Yeah, I think that would solve any premonitions that I have about Novice at these races. I think that takes care of it. And I think that the upside to doing that is way worth the time someone loses in a weekend to do it.
You know, if maybe there was some way of organizing, you know, pairing people up, that might help, because I know when I get there to the track Friday morning, I'm
We've
focused
talked
on
about this
this and
before
that.
almost. We've talked about this, I think, at the club level. I don't think we ever discussed this for NCTs. But yeah,
Right.
that's a great point. Okay, because yeah, think about it, right? When was the last NCT that we saw that had a novice class that had more than like 8 people? You're going to tell me that there's not 8 people at an NCT that could like legitimately, like 8 fast dudes that have been doing it for a while that could take time out of their weekend to like be a sort of like have like a peer-to-peer with them and help them out and get them where they, you know, where they can be.
Right.
I think
Yep.
that's perfectly reasonable. I think that would be awesome.
I think maybe have a sign-up sheet previous to the race where experienced racers can sign up to volunteer to take on one person.
Yeah.
You know, even have them pit with you if that's even possible. You know, have their table set up beside yours, or if that's not possible, maybe, you know, check up on them or have them, you know, let them know where you're pitting, and every time they're running, kind of, you know, be there.
Yeah, they can keep track of what races they're in, so that way they can you know, follow up with them. Right. You know?
And I'm as guilty as anybody else for not stepping out of
we all are.
my zone so I'm not calling anybody out. I don't.
No, we all are.
I don't want to make it sound like that, but I think this is a great idea, and I think it could really go a long ways to helping our hobby and keeping people coming back.
Yep.
And this goes for not just NCTs, but any race, honestly.
Yeah. No, 100%. I completely agree.
Yeah, and I think that's something that we should look into and try to implement if we can, for sure, at any race.
Yep. I like that a lot. So hopefully some momentum comes from that. And I would be, you know, obviously I'm not going to attend any this year. I made that clear, but next year when I attend them, I mean, I would be more than happy to volunteer myself for that. So
right. Yep.
I would hope that there would at least be a good number of other people that would too. And I'm sure they would. I'm sure if you put that sign up sheet out there, it'll fill up very fast. We have a lot of good dudes here.
There's a ton of people that are so helpful and that would volunteer in a second. I think it just needs to be organized in a better manner, whereas it's kind of organized by whoever's running the race or something. Somebody takes that on as a project, like the novice coordinator or something for each round. I don't know.
Yeah. Yep. But there's a lot of ways you could do it, but yeah, it should be someone who can kind of head that program up that doesn't have a lot going on the rest of the weekend.
Right. That's kind of their thing for the whole weekend.
Yeah, that's not something
the novice program.
Yeah, that's not something Brian could do. You know, like he's got enough on his plate. The guys who are out there working, whoever, you know, the sort of event guy is for the local facility, right? You know, in our case, that's generally been Tony and David, so they don't have time for that. So someone who generally doesn't have a lot going on that weekend, that could help. And then they can.
I'm going to nominate Brenda to do it at all the NCTs because she is so awesome with that kind of stuff. She's amazing when it comes to that stuff.
She'd probably be super stoked to do it, except that she has to go to all 6.
Yeah. Sorry, Brenda, you've been nominated. But no, somebody that's you know, kind of in touch with that side of it and can spend their weekend kind of organizing all of that. I think it would go a long ways to help promote what we're doing.
Yep. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so moving on. Jeremy Kim. I know you guys have discussed this in past episodes, but what is the possibility of having a novice or stock 1/8 scale class? And what rules and regulations would you put in it to make it fair for all? I don't know how you do a stock 8th scale. I don't think there's a good way.
Yeah, there really is. I mean, you could do e-buggy and do like a a 1500 kV motor in it or something like that to help slow them down and make them more controllable. But as far as nitro is concerned, I don't
It's
think
still,
there's
well, you can't do anything with nitro for sure. But even a
right.
1500 8 scale, I mean, it's still an 8 scale,
Oh yeah.
so I don't know. I mean, this has been a contested topic for a while, hasn't it? Where people, have been kind of going, well, if someone just getting into it probably shouldn't have an 8 scale car, which is a valid point. But what do you do about it? What do you do? Like, I mean, that's the other side to this is how do you regulate that in a way that is exciting for the people getting into it to where they want to do it? Because that's the other problem here is even if you find a way that works technologically, you got to make it work for the people who are actually participating. And I think people miss that a little bit when they come up with these ideas. But yeah, you also have to make it work. Like, okay, where in the technology and where in the setup are we going to adjust things that really puts a hamper on these cars but makes them fun to drive? Because again, that's kind of part of the problem. They have to be fun to drive. If they suck and they're super slow and you can't do anything with them, you're going to lose 8 of the 10 people who participated in that class.
I'm going to tell you, a 1500 kV motor in an e-buggy is not slow.
No, it's not.
You may not be able to do the great big monster triples that some of the 1900 and above e-buggies are doing. For the whole run, it's kind of like 17.5 where you can do the triple for the first half of the run and then near the end it fades and you have to double single. It's very similar to that. But it's a lot more controllable, whereas a 1900 in a e-buggy is insanely fast. It's really, really fast. So I don't know. And I hate to split up classes more, but I also
Yeah.
want to see more people getting into nitro buggy. And the problem I see with having a novice or an entry level nitro buggy class is that people are going to spend the money and get involved in it and then get frustrated because they're not really at that point yet where they understand the tuning and all that stuff, where they're going to end up blowing up an engine every weekend because it's too lean or this sort of thing. And it ends up costing so much money that they quit. So it's a double-edged sword where we want people to get involved and we want people to do it, but there's no way to have people learn without having somebody teach them. There has to be somebody on their side by their side all the time.
Yeah.
to work on their car and show them the ins and outs of how these cars work. Just slowing them down isn't enough.
Yeah, and again, that brings us back to the point of, okay, do you think, could you reasonably find, because that's a lot of work. That's a lot of work for somebody to do, right?
You're committing your whole weekend, and you need to spend the whole weekend with that novice nitro racer.
So I look at this as, is that something that could be reasonably performed, or is this just the unfortunate casualty of nitro racing?
I think it's an unfortunate casualty of nitro racing, but
I'm the same way, really.
We've also seen nitro racing grow.
Yeah.
Nitro racing's been growing. So where are these people coming from? Where are they learning the skills, and how are they getting to the point where they're comfortable running a nitro car and actually finishing races? We need to focus on where they're coming from and how they're learning the skills, because that's what we need to promote to get more people into nitro racing.
Yeah, a lot of the guys that are nitro that are fast, I think, if they haven't been racing nitro for 30 years, then they started an e-buggy probably, and or some other 10 scale platform maybe even, and they waited until the point where they were knowledgeable enough about RC in general and the platforms they were on that Nitro actually became appealing to them. There's some people like myself who swore off Nitro for years. And if I had started Nitro in the beginning when I started racing 8 scale, I probably would not have continued RC. I mean, it would have been a disaster. And
See, I'm the opposite. There was no e-buggy when I started Nitro racing, and it was a frustrating, very long road.
yeah, it's much easier now
to go down.
It's much easier now, no question, than it was then to get into it and make it work. I think really, I wish I had a better answer for this, because the only thing I could like legitimately come up with as a solution to this is that people need to be truly honest with themselves in terms of if it's a responsibility they can handle.
Exactly.
And maybe they try it and they find out it's not for them and they either never do it again or they come back to it when they feel like they're more prepared. You can work to that point. I think Nitro racing almost has to be a point you have to work towards. Unless you are 12, 13 years old, you're a halfway decent driver, but your dad is doing all the work for you, then that does take some of the stress away.
That's where the majority of Nitro racers are coming from now, is they have a father that's done Nitro racing and knows how it all works. But, you know, unless if you don't have that kind of support system, you need to be very resilient and very dedicated, and you don't get frustrated easily, and you just keep pushing through until you learn all these hard lessons the hard way.
Yeah.
And you push through it and you learn these lessons, and you're putting all these pieces together on your own, which is not easy, but it's completely possible.
A good example of this was Cody Grams. He's a really like good example of what you're talking about. Like he came in, he was quick out of the gate. He came in, dominated Sportsman Buggy, right? And they moved him up the next year, and he was instantly competitive in e-buggy. You know, he was top 5 probably every race. And it was a close top 5, and he was really pushing it in Nitro. He waited, if I remember correctly, he waited a little bit to get into Nitro. When he started in Nitro, and I apologize if I'm getting this wrong, but this is just my sort of foggy memory of how I remember this going. Started off in Nitro, he was quick, obviously, but there were the Nitro lessons that were had, and things weren't really going maybe as well as they were in e-buggy. And he's someone who, like I said, was quick, but has since the point he started, has never quit trying to get better. And you can see that in his driving, because now I think you could argue he's one of the fastest local NCT drivers in 8 scale. I mean, going into Yakima, I know I was going to kind of save this for later, but going into Yakima, he's my Nitro buggy pick, right? And that's because he put the work in on and off the track. And the off-track portion for Nitro is massive to make that work.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah. In between races is a lot of work.
You have to do that. And so give credit where it's due. He's a great example of that, where he was someone that, he's talented, but the talent wasn't going to finish a Nitro race. And that's what is missing for a lot of people when they come in. And you can't like give any, and this is the problem, like, because people ask, the fast guys for advice all the time trying to get into Nitro. Nitro's badass if people want to do it.
There's nothing better.
There's so much to know. You can't just put everything like on a piece of paper and hand it to someone and be like, hey, this is everything you need to know about Nitro racing. You follow this, you'll be good. It's not that simple.
Here's the recipe. Doesn't work that way.
It's never been that simple. And that's the problem. So Nitro, to even just be a continuous finisher in it, and you're going to be consistent. And even if you're not at the top, if you're like B-main every race, there's nothing wrong with that. But even to get to that point, it's a little bit of sink or swim. You have to swim to get to just that point to do it comfortably.
Yeah. And you know what? A lot of people have learned through running 10th scale and stuff that you don't replace parts until they fail. Yeah. Bearings and that sort of thing. Whereas 8 scale, you're replacing them before they fail.
Oh my God. 2017, I must have gone through like 3 8 scales and parts.
Yeah.
No, and I didn't probably have to, but I did because
If
to me that's what it
anything's
took.
if anything shows any kind of wear, you replace it before the race
Yep.
because inevitably it's going to fail during the race.
Yep.
So that's a different lesson. There's so many lessons with 8 scale, especially nitro, where you're running longer mains. That it's preventative maintenance instead of uh, reactive maintenance.
Yep. Yeah, preventative maintenance is the massive differentiator in how this goes for people.
That's right.
100%. Boy, we went way off topic there.
Yeah, I don't even remember what the question
I
was.
think it was about stock 8 scale. Long story short, I don't think we have a great answer for it.
Yeah.
I
I want to see more people, but I don't know how to make it happen.
Yeah, I want to see more people do it right, and I don't know if there's a clear-cut solution to that. I think again, it's just there are certain unfortunate natures, and this is one of them in RC. Unless there's just something that massively changes, and I don't think that'll ever happen.
No, and I think it goes back to the previous question where we discussed having, uh, the the faster, more experienced racers take on a project for the weekend, a protege or
Yeah,
a shadow for
but
the
I
weekend.
think it would
kind of
be
thing.
absolute madness to see anybody take that on beyond a novice level.
Well, yeah.
Unless it's just like one dude that you're noticing is, trying to get into this and you want to help him out. But to kind of like get a whole class of people doing that, that's chaos.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of chaos.
It,
Maybe
we
worth
need
a try.
We need everybody to pitch in and help.
Yeah. I think there just needs to be more of an initiative from racers without structure there.
Yep.
He said, okay, so Robert Sojournin, he said, with the border still closed and no opening in sight, have you had a chance to catch up with any of the Canadian drivers that usually attend? Are they missed at these events? I know personally I miss attending and can't wait for the opening, but it seems this year isn't in the cards. Well, we don't know because we aren't there. So, we miss the Canadian friends. I mean, obviously.
I do miss them. I miss my ketchup chips.
Yeah, see, that's if absolutely nothing else, and obviously all the Canadians that come down are super good dudes, but if absolutely nothing else, people are missing their ketchup chip fix. So they had the hookup for these races and now they don't. So maybe people are a little bit more on edge at some of these races, but I wouldn't know.
Yeah, I think everybody misses the Canadians that all come down. I can't even name them all. We got Robert, we've got Terry O, we got the Souk.
Yeah, so many.
He's always fun to be around. God, there's so many.
There's so many.
So many. Yeah. So we do miss seeing all of you guys, and hopefully we'll get together again very shortly.
Yep.
To have some good times. Maybe this winter things will open up a little more. I don't know, but
I hope so.
This is tough. It's really hard to be all quarantined and segregated and all this shit.
Yeah, it sucks. So. Yeah, that wraps up everything we had for NCT questions, unless people have added any since we have started recording, but I have not seen any. But we did have a couple.
My phone, so I can look.
I took Facebook itself off of my phone this week, and it's been awesome. But I still have the Pages app, so I can check in on people.
Okay. We do have something to talk about as far as Nora is concerned. If you want to look that up while I'm talking about that.
Yeah. Why don't we jump into that, and then we can get into our non-NCT related questions. And
okay.
Yeah, we'll go from there. So yeah, go ahead.
All right. So the Nora Club, as you know, hasn't been able to run any races this summer, and there's been some change at the top as far as the president and I think it was secretary. So there's going to be some elections coming up soon, like they do every year. And, only members can vote on this. So and a lot of people haven't paid memberships because there hasn't been any racing, which I'm guilty as well. So, in order to vote for this, and we want the club to keep moving forward. This year has been a down year, and you know we all know what the story there is. But um, the club is still still running and moving forward, and looking forward to this winter season indoors and then outdoors next year. So we need to keep continuing what we do with the Nora Club. So they're asking everybody to please pay their membership, because one, it helps the club with their expenses and this sort of thing. And they still have expenses even though we're not racing. But uh, the uh, the other important part is we need a membership base in order to elect new officials for the 2021 season. So please pay your membership for the year. Basic membership's only $20. It can be paid in person at the club meetings, at Broadway Hobbies in Everett. And you can also pay at PayPal at noraracing@msn.com. So I'm going to get on that and do that myself, and re-up my membership, even though we haven't raced this year. It's only $20. Not a big deal. It helps the club, and we get to vote and help improve our club for next year, as they're kind of struggling for people right now. So if you want to run the club, if you want to be a part of the club, if you want to volunteer and be a part of the club and do that kind of stuff, put your name in the hat, or have somebody nominate you to be president, secretary, whatever. There's always volunteers needed for the club, and it wouldn't be so successful without these amazing volunteers. So please do your part, pay your membership. It's only $20, and let's make 2021 really amazing, as good as it was in 2019. So there you go. Let's do that.
Hell yeah. Nice job, Colin.
Yeah.
You're ready for ad reads now.
Well, I had some of the information in front of me. I had to ad-lib most of it, and I stutter. So,
Very cool. Yeah, I mean, seriously though, like that's we meant to say it on the last show. We completely spaced it, so apologies to Nora. But yeah, I mean, help him out. Something that until they said something to us to put the word out, hadn't even considered. It didn't even cross my mind that was an issue. So
yeah, I had no idea until
I mean, it makes total sense, but yeah, it's just not something I had like really thought about. So yeah, I said it's only $20. So pop in, pay your membership fees, because you were going to pay him anyways. And
it's $20. It's nothing.
Yep. Sweet. Okay. Yeah. So seriously, go do that. And then I'll put that in the description as well too, because can't forget that. We have 3 questions. Well, we have 2 questions. Kenny's doesn't count. That we can kind of close out with. I'll just ask his first, which is just, why has the governor shut down RC? I think everyone has a different answer to that.
I don't think the governor's ever raced RC. I think that's the problem.
I think it's, what's RC?
We need to invite him out to race and put a car in his hand.
Yeah. Be like, hey, open this up. Yeah, that's definitely how that would go. The first question is from Aiden Burke. He is the host of the Extra Lap RC podcast, which is an English RC podcast. Those guys are awesome. Put together a great show.
Hey, ours is English too.
Yeah.
He's from the UK.
Yep. He's from England. So, wow, I'm derailed. No, we had meant to do or schedule a little bit of like another Super Friends between our podcast and Keenan's, and an Extra Lap. We just haven't had the time for that. So that is definitely still in the cards though, and I appreciate their support. And yeah, their podcast is awesome. Go check it out. They get some pretty awesome guests on the 2. So
so What was his question?
His question was, what do you do when a guest doesn't turn up?
Oh boy.
This has
Well,
actually only happened once. With good reason. I believe, I'm almost positive it was once, and it was Peeler. We were gonna have Peeler on.
It wasn't a no-show though. There was a reason.
We didn't know till about 15 minutes before recording, which resulted in what became the roundtable that was episode 27.
That was a great episode.
That was a great episode. So I guess that's what we did when a guest didn't turn up. But no, his mom was really sick and needed an emergency surgery, so he couldn't make it. But I don't think we've ever had someone flake on us.
I want to hear them call him out.
Yeah,
who was it?
I wonder who it was.
who was it?
Yeah.
Man, no, I don't know. I guess we just kind of either roll with it or record another night because we don't broadcast live very often. So
yeah, we don't we pre-plan our shows pretty hard as far as guests. So fortunately, I don't know. I mean, I guess it maybe other podcasts haven't been as lucky, but we've been really fortunate in that every person we've had on that could be on, right, showed up. So yeah, that was pretty awesome. So we're keeping the streak alive. We were actually, like I said, we were going to have Brian on tonight, but we were going to have another guest. But again, we just ran out of time to put things together. So we'll have another one here pretty quick, probably next week, hopefully. And then the last one is from Brett Wilson, and these are two good questions to end on. He says, how do we keep the Northwest RC train rolling with all the limitations placed on events? Actually, you know what? Let's just stop there, and I'll ask the second question later. Yeah, how do we do it? And that is the $1 million question right now, or an RC. That's probably like the $2,500 question. But
it's really tough because we're limited to what, 10 people or 25 people or something.
I think. Well, what I think some of us have learned is nobody really knows because it seems to change so frequently. I mean, I really if you put yourself. I have a lot of respect for the people who are trying to put these races on. I do. Because it is massively difficult when you're trying to put this together and you're basically down to the wire trying to figure out if it's still going to happen or not. Brian talked about that with Burlington. Obviously, Wildy's race got canceled mid-track build back in July.
Oh, yeah. Out at, was it Eagle Hills?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it Eagle Hills? It's Eagle something. Out in Boise.
Yeah.
I think it's Eagle Hills.
God, I shouldn't be. Anyways,
I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, we're both missing it. But yeah, so it's everything seems fine until it's not. Just like they had to move away from Yakima from round 2. So it's it's been kind of this circus, and we alluded to that earlier, where it's man, good for them for just being able to just adapt it all to where they can still have races and they're not just putting the can on everything. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how you even remotely go about this in a way that you can feel confident doing it. Really, I mean, it's just again, you cross one line anywhere and then you're fine, but then 15 minutes later the rules have changed. So it's. I don't know. And I think that's been a big point of frustration for everybody. Is there has been a massive lack of consistency, and things have just not gone to plan for months and months now in terms of just the world. So, yeah, to try hold RC races amongst all this and have them go without a hitch. It's I don't know. That's that's tough. That's really tough.
I see places like TRCR in Tacoma and. PDX Underground in Portland. And, while they're limited to 25 people, they'll do one night is stock night. I know they're doing this in Portland anyway. They'll do one night stock night and the next night mod night, that sort of thing. And, you may have to have some downtime in between runs in order to, make sure everybody's charged and ready to go and to get corner marshals and all that kind of stuff. But they're still getting it done.
Yeah.
And, I don't know exactly the format that TRCR is running, but I know that they're limiting it to 25 entries, and you have to sign up ahead of time.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they have limited classes or not, or how that's working. But
it's not great, but that's a way to adapt. I mean, you do what you got to do. I mean, at the end of the day, they got to do what they got to do to keep the doors open.
Right.
Those are great examples of what to do. I think a great example of what not to do is what OCRC did with Top Gun.
Yeah, that was crazy.
That was absolutely idiotic. I could not, it was mind blowing to me. Not a full race, no cap on any of it. And as far as I could tell, I mean, I think it's a capped race anyways, but not like a COVID cap. And
no, it was regular.
It was a regular race, no masks or anything. I mean, look, regardless of what you think, I mean, it's not about whether you are afraid of COVID. Okay. Like, this is the thing that I keep trying to get people to understand. It's not about if you're worried about the virus. It's that if you would just play the damn game for a little bit and not do stupid shit like that, because that could have ended bad. That was like riding the line, right? That could have ended really bad for them. And if that is things like that happening and going about it the way that they did is why this is continuously a problem. Why it is now September and things are not back to normal. Because people have this mentality that, oh, they're not worried about the virus. I'm not going to let fear control my life, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, that's fine. That's not the point, though. It's not about what the virus is going to do to you. It's about what's happening everywhere. It's obvious. No one is going to come to the conclusion that, you know what, okay, well, I guess it's not really that big of a deal. People don't seem that afraid. We're just going to lift all the restrictions. No, if people keep going out and doing dumb shit like this, the longer this gets drawn on, that's where the rest of the world was able to kick it in weeks, and we're still dealing with this. And this was an example of why. So I get on my soapbox here about this because that was a dumb decision. And I get they have to hold their race. They have to keep the doors open and stuff too. But my point is there are things they could have done. At least make masks. If they're not going to even like cap all of it, make masks mandatory. I mean, look, we don't have hard labor jobs, but you know what? Like, if I can show up every day, wear my damn mask, and this bullshit smoke and humidity and heat and everything else, I mean, you can wear it to an RC race in an air-conditioned building.
Right.
It's easy. It really is easy. So it's like they really got out of there lucky. I really do feel like that could have been bad for them if someone had caught wind of that. So I don't know. Point being, there's an example of what not to do. I would look at what, again, PDX and what TRCR are doing. Like I said, it's not perfect, but that's about all they can do. And kudos to them for making it work. I don't see anything wrong with them holding races. They shouldn't. They got to make their buck. They got to keep the doors open. It's better than the track closing. But the point is they're doing it in a way that's safe. So
yeah, PDX is having races like, I don't know, 4 or 5 times a week, or what it looks like from here.
Well, and people are probably happy to go racing, so it's probably working pretty well in terms of just at least entry count to keep the money somewhat decent, because people had to go a long time without any racing, and at least they're getting to do something.
Right.
So I think people are willing to jump through the hoops.
As long as you're on a carpet track, as long as your layout doesn't change, the times from one night to the next night should be fairly similar, pretty close. I don't think it's going to change very much. So even if you had to have, one group of people running on one night, the next group of people running on the next night, you can still compare those numbers against each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Instead of having 100 people in the building at one time.
Yeah.
Now, if you're paying $800 to $1,000 a day for a facility, then that obviously doesn't make sense. But for somebody that's paying a lease on a permanent track, you can still make this happen. You're still paying the same amount of lease. Yes, you have to be there more often, or somebody has to be there to run the races, but you can still get the same amount of number of people through the doors and paying the entry fees. But, maybe you're going to have stock one night, mod the next night. You're going to have, you're going to split it up so the numbers of people in that building aren't as high as what they would normally be to have it all in one night.
Yeah. Yeah,
You know,
that works too.
the math on that kind of thing is it works out, but it doesn't seem like a big deal because you've only got 25 people in the building at a time.
Yeah. Well, this kind of rolls into actually the second question Brett had, which are what are some ideas around smaller weekly racing series with a permanent facility? And honestly, basically everything Colin just said. I mean, that could work.
Yeah, I mean, it means that you have to be there a lot more.
Yeah, that's the other part.
But it's what we got to do in order to race or to pay the lease on the building that's already been leased and to keep racing going. And it's tough for a business that relies on entry fees to pay, for their monthly bills. But there is ways to do it. It may require more work on the owner's part, but there is ways to do it, such as what I just explained.
Yeah,
you just can't have 100 people in there at a time. Indoors is not really a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree 100%.
Or you know what? I have the solution.
Uh-oh.
I have the solution for the winter. We're all going to run mega trucks because it doesn't matter if it's wet, raining, muddy, or whatever. We're all going to run mega trucks all winter long, and we can be outdoors and separate just fine.
Problem solved? I'm Ron Burgundy?
There was a lot of dead airspace there.
No, in all seriousness, yeah, you could do that too.
Well, I'll have mine going, and I think we actually are. I'm going to try to build the track.
Rad.
Before it starts getting too muddy, but
well, I think you might want to hit up Brett because at a certain point they close the park for the winter.
Oh, there's that. I forgot about that.
So you might want to see what time they're booting out of there and going back to Camino.
Yeah. We might have to find another location. So if anybody knows a location in the greater Seattle area for a mega truck track that we could have regular races on, let me know, because mine's been sitting for a while and it's time to get it dirty. And I know there's a lot of other people that have built them too, and I think we could attract a bunch of other people to get in, just like we have with the drag racing.
Yeah, for sure.
We could do drag racing with mega trucks in the mud.
Oh boy. Okay, he's getting crazy now. All right. We better end this. No, but in all seriousness, we covered everything. Do you have any closing thoughts?
No, I think we covered the Nora thing, which was number one on my list tonight, since I completely spaced it for last week. I should have brought that up last week. I forgot. Or the week before, whenever the last time we recorded.
Yeah, we both totally forgot.
I don't even know what day it is anymore.
October?
Maybe. I don't know.
No idea. All right. Well, you know what? Hey, that's a good point to end on because our brains are breaking. So, yeah, let's go. Okay. So, thank you, everybody, for listening to this week's episode of the Track Walk RC podcast. This has been episode 52. A huge thank you to you guys, especially patrons who have been so supportive of us throughout the summer and been so patient, especially kind of during our midsummer hiatus. Super thrilled to just have you guys in our corner all the times. And then please check the links in the description. Check out the GoFundMe for Leighton and check out the, just follow the reminder to go grab a membership from Nora. Because like I said, you were probably going to grab one anyways. But yeah, just throw $20 their way. It helps them out. It ensures a future post-COVID. And, let's kind of rally around the RC community because things are still tough for us and still very tough for certain people who unfortunately got the real shit end of everything. So let's do what we can for those guys. But thank you again, and we will see you guys next week.
Nitro racers, change your clutch bearings before every main, regardless.